Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a session Mastering Rapid Power BI Development with ChatGPT. My name is Pedro Reis.
I'm Ricardo.
So, mastering Power BI Development with ChatGPT. Wouldn't it be fantastic? Can it be done? Let's try to find out. And we're going to try to find out without trying to sell Copilot. We're really going to test and to show the reality, what works, what doesn't work. So this is the objective of the session. Before we start, we are in the age of AI, and it's really important to understand also what is the impact of these AI products and on this all the AI that is coming to help and aid us in our day-to-day work. But it's still not very explicit, very quantifiable. So, actually, we want to start with a story. There was one company which tried to do this quantification, which is a Boston Consulting Group, and they created a big study with 758 professionals, and in this study, they gave us a real consulting case in which they had to do multiple tasks. They had to prepare reports. They had to do marketing analysis and proposals. They had to do client leads and pre-sales. They had to do a lot of things and deliver all the output like a real case, and we would be able to measure what was the productivity of these workers. But they were separated in three groups. The three groups that they were separated were, as what you can see in the image, someone not using AI at all, which we call the control group, someone using AI and fully relying on whatever comes out of it, and a third group, someone using AI, but looking with its judgment and tweaking it a little bit and iterating through it. What were the results from this group? Well, first of all, the cohort using AI was able to finish the same tasks 25% faster. They were even able to deliver 12% more tasks in the same time. Not only faster, but more tasks. And ultimately also, the average quality of the work delivered had a 40% higher quality rating. Sounds good, right? So, can these principles be applied to Power BI development or data analytics development? We're going to try to find out. In our session, we believe that our presentation can help, for instance, some use cases we thought. If you are a guy from the SQL world, but you are handed over some reports in Fabric and you might need to go to M or to DAX and iterate a few things, and you don't know a lot about it, we think this can help you. If you are a citizen developer or a subject matter expert and you don't know a lot about coding like Python or PowerShell, this can help you too and leverage the field on that. If you don't know about UI, UX a lot, this can also help you. And occasionally just general productivity driver and helper on the day-to-day. Also, as you've seen a lot of demos already in this conference, Patrick, Adam, Mohammed Ali, Buck, all on the Copilots, right? You've seen Copilots a lot of things. But if you don't have a P1 capacity, if you don't have an F64 capacity, can you use like a local large language model to do some of the tasks or a public one on things that are not sensitive? And also, you might also need the multimodal capabilities, right? Which is, for instance, using images and pasting the images directly in the AI understanding the images. So let's see what we can do. My name is Pedro Reis, and I'm a Microsoft MVP MCT. I'm the leader of the Portuguese user group on Power BI. And I do training and consulting on Power BI and Fabric, trying to make things simple. I'm here with my other good friend, the other Portuguese guy, Ricardo.
Hello, I'm Ricardo. I'm an expert leader in BI and big data at Natixis in Portugal. It's the IT center of expertise for the second largest bank in France. It's Groupe BPCE. So I work for the data AI platform team, where we do all of the architecture for the data platform of the entire group. And I also participate a lot in the communities. So I'm also the vice president for the Portuguese Business Intelligence Association. And today we are trying to showcase to you guys a lot of use cases that we try to define on the steps to develop Power BI and where we can increment our productivity and our efficiency by using ChatGPT. So the idea is that we're going to go step by step on all of the Power BI development steps and procedures and try to get the assistance of ChatGPT to increase the time that we take to develop. So we define these scenarios that we're going to test. And we're not just testing to provide you the answers, also testing to make sure that it works. So we're going to tell you if it doesn't work also, okay?
Yeah.
We are going to really test case.
How are you going to show it?
So we define the tests in 3 different kinds of categories, okay? So if we just prompt ChatGPT and it will give us the answer immediately, it's a test.
A good answer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So simple. Second one is when we have to reprompt or do some interactions with the ChatGPT to get the correct answer.
Test. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we get there, but we have to fine tune. And the third one, okay, if it doesn't work.
Okay. KO.
Yeah. So for the first test case, so we want to build a data model. So we want the help of ChatGPT to generate our data model, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Was there ever someone here in my other session yesterday, the 20-minute one? Okay. So you guys saw in that demo, analyzing existing data models, etc. What we're going to try to do is, sometimes we need to think about a semantic model for a new product, even before we conceptualize and think about how the data, we want just to design the model, right? So let's try to do that and generate a data model for an industry. So here I am on GPT-4 on the OpenAI version, the public one. And I prompted, I manage a data services firm. Can you generate a data model for this firm? And I can add a few steps like prefix the tables with fact, prefix the dimensions with dim. I can throw in some instructions like that. And it's going to start suggesting tables which are common for this type of industry, right? Which is something very interesting. And this is a direction that we're going right now. And also suggesting a few dimension tables. I also wanted it to suggest already, like in a buzz matrix, which is very common also on the BI world, all the relationships between the different tables. So it's creating, the model, the documentation for us, something that can really help us on this. So going a bit ahead, here it is mapping the buzz matrix completely, and here we have it. Okay, so on the next one, the test was okay, was able to generate a model. We don't know yet how good, but just to showcase you guys, if we are very specific about the prompt, it's possible to do something like this. Does anyone know Project Sophia? No? Okay. If we have time in the end, I'll talk about it. Okay. So here is an example of what was the prompt, and if you guys then download the slides in the document, you have just the instructions, and what was the output, the nice table with the tables, the relationships, and also a buzz matrix with the connections. The second thing, we have a data model. Now we want to generate artificial data for a model. Why do we want this in our industries? Sometimes if you guys are designing, we talk about proof of concepts, MVPs, a lot of stuff. Maybe some of the data you have it on the fly. The other data, you don't have it. You need to generate it. You see a lot of things, especially partners that are working with the customers. And, oh, it's not GA. You cannot touch real data. Has anyone seen a case like this? Yeah? Yeah. Absolutely. OK. So there are the use case for this. We're going to try to generate artificial data in 3 ways. Someone, I think it was Mohammed, it was a demo on the Power Apps generating with the Copilot. We've already seen one demo in this conference, at least. We're going to try to generate it here on the free version. On the GPT-4, generate sample CSV files and assume dates between 2019 and 2023. I'm also being specific. I want certain types of customer names, certain types of client names. And I'm even prompting it, I want a certain pattern in the data, like 1 year has more sales, the other year less, so that we can even be more specific on this type of requests. So it's GPT 4.0, it's more complete, but takes a bit more time to process the requests. That's why most of the demos are in 4. Ricardo will do the more code-intensive ones in 3.5, which take more time. Sometimes the capacity is not sufficient and it fails, but you can try to regenerate or ask it to complete the previous task. And so, in this case, we can see that eventually, here you have the sample CSV files for your data model. But it didn't create all the files. Because, I don't know, maybe it was OpenAI that limited this a little bit. They don't want us to waste all the resources, although you have a paid account. I don't know. But it didn't return all the tables. So we will put it test key, or we didn't complete what we requested. Let's try a second approach, which is, let's ask it just to generate the Python script, which you can run locally, which by itself will generate our artificial data. And so we prompt it. It's going to create a script, and you can see it's starting to write it. Everything for us, importing pandas, then putting other libraries, putting some parameters, some constants. Even the names, it's creating a group of last names, first names, so that it will be able to combine it with what we requested. And ultimately, it will generate the script. Let me see. Yeah, even if I don't have any idea how to run a local Python script, it will instruct me how to do it. So we have our script, and then let's see what we're going to do. Unfortunately, it didn't work, only generated also 3 tables. It's being stubborn, right? Just wants to generate 3 tables. So let's reprompt it and ask it, really, I need all the tables generated. And finally, we have the script here on the local folder. I open it in VS Code, and we can see and inspect the code before we run it. And when we run the Python script, then I can see that, okay, so it's running, and let's confirm we actually generated the files in the local folder. So let's open it up, and here we have it, and we have, you see, at least by the size of the file, it looks like it has data. So let's inspect this. So it was okay with iterations, okay? Kind of, just needed to reprompt it again, but actually it was quite fast. Imagine if you guys needed to create this data, the AI is doing this for us, it's quite useful and productive. We opened the files and inspected to see if the real data was there. So we can see that on the customers and employees seems like so, on the fact sales also seems like. I opened this on Power BI just to see if everything was okay. Did you notice anything strange, Ricardo?
Didn't you ask for a poor year?
You are right. I told that 2021 was a bad year and 2022 was good. So it didn't immediately did this pattern in the data, in the fact generation cells. But I actually did this a second time, and it actually worked when I was even more specific in asking this pattern in the data. So we can get it to work. We just need to be quite specific in the prompt. So let's give it okay with some things. But so far, so good. Let's try directly on a transact SQL, inject some data doing some create statements, create tables, and then some insert statements for like small tables directly in a SQL Server database. I'm asking for it. And here you have, it's generating the create statement, even putting some references on the foreign keys. And, okay, the next one. Okay, so I tested the table creation and it was okay, but now I need the insert statement to be completed because it just put the data for the first few rows and then ellipses saying you can continue this. I don't want to continue. I wanted to generate the data for me.
It didn't give you the entire data.
No, fortunately. Still some problems with this. So I'm being more specific. It must complete the entire output of the tables. So after some iterations and some effort, let me see, it created a script. You can see here I'm testing it on Management Studio. The create statement is okay. We can see it on below. And when I tried the insert statement, it failed. I just copy-pasted the error that it threw. I don't even know what is the error. I just copy-pasted, put it back in ChatGPT, and finally you can see that the insert worked, and I'm even able to query the data that was inserted. Okay? So test okay with some iterations. What do you think? Which is your favorite one?
Yeah, I definitely love the code one, so I'm a Python guy. So yeah, I go back for the code.
And even in the libraries to generate artificial data, with Python you have much more flexibility, and it's better to randomize the patterns. So our advice is, for now, go with the Python generation. Yeah. ChatGPT can generate different types of files. You have here a few more files, like MD files, XML, JSON files. So it's also interesting for you guys to know. And here is the prompts that we provided that we demoed the data generation. If the output is not complete, request the completion or try to be more specific in the beginning. You also have a link in the presentation. You can do it in Fabric, of course, or you can do, there is a free offering for Microsoft for Azure SQL database that you can also use it to test these kind of things. Okay. So next thing, what should I do now, right?
Right, now you start getting the data into the model, right?
Okay, so we have the data model, we have some sample data, but I didn't actually ask it to generate a dim date for my model. So just to be different and to go through the entire process, I'm going to try to generate it with Power Query. Adam and Patrick yesterday did a demo on generating a simple calendar table. I'm going to try to do that and even some more complex functions in Power Query. For instance, I'm going to prompt it to be, let me see, I can zoom in a little bit. Generate a dim date for Power Query. The table should have year, month, and I'm already specifying the short month, the long month. I can specify whatever I want already, and the range of dates also that I wanted to generate. First time it didn't work. It just gave me what should be in the table, but actually didn't give me the M code. That's a lesson. Let's be specific. Always put in your prompts, prompt engineering 101, the output result that you expect. Return the M code in a format I can paste directly in a blank query in Power BI, right? Nice tip. So when we ask this, finally we have the Power Query code, the M code that we can put it. I tested it, didn't work. We have an error here, okay? I copy-paste this error. I don't even read it, put it back in ChatGPT. And here is the error. New version of the code, put it back in Power Query, and the calendar table is generated. Okay, so it worked. Test OK with an iteration. I tested a different thing. Could I have done it with success the first time with a better prompt? That's the question, because we don't want to do this back and forth, right? We want to be efficient. So I asked it. I asked something else in the end. Can you ensure syntax accuracy and proper function calls to avoid common errors such as misreferencing modules and functions? So I added this, and actually the return of the code worked the first iteration. So a tip also to put to this consistency or reference to existing functions and documentations. Then I want to enrich this with a custom function, which is I want, we always, in calendar tables we have holidays, and we even have working days or non-working days, so I want the Portuguese holidays. We actually have a lot. I was doing this first with the UK holidays, and you guys have so few holidays. The Portuguese, we have more. Yep. So come to work for Portugal, invest in Portugal. But, so I went with the Portuguese holidays to have a few more samples. And also I want a non-working day if it's a weekend, non-weekend, and a non-holiday to be a working day. So I tried to paste this, see if it worked. It seems like it worked. Look, it's incredible, right? Portuguese holiday 100, etc., and working day 011. Really good. I think this is really useful. Okay, test OK. And now I want to add a further layer of the complexity. You will not see directly this on the Copilot demos because it's likely to fail. But we'll try it and share the ugly truth or the beautiful one.
Yeah, the idea is that we test everything that we need to develop. So
yeah. So add a column with a cumulative count of working days for each year. Something with large language models should be simple. Do we see any problem here?
Yeah, 365.
Okay. No,
and then,
clearly the test failed. Something wrong here. Please base this on the working day column. It was somehow not using the working day column. An error. And finally, I paste back the error. And, oh, look at this. Up to 257, and then starts from 0 because the 1st of January of the next year is not a working day. So, very good. Complex function. We did it with Power Query. We have our calendar. Final one.
Yeah, I know this one.
Why is this important?
Yeah, we know we work in a French bank, so everything we produce has to have a translation. So we have to do this every time.
So let's be really efficient. Please not translate manually the code. Yeah. Just translate my M code directly and change the column headers to French. And here it is. Can you pronounce it, Ricardo?
Yeah.
I'm still working on my French, but...
Moi court, numéro moi.
Okay,
yes,
very good.
Yes.
So, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Very good. This is helpful. Next, what do we want to do?
Now that you already build a lot of code, so you already have a lot of M code that you can get the data into the data model, you start building your data model and enhancing it. So now we get to the point where we need to create the DAX measures. So I go even further with the tests a little bit because Pedro was using the ChatGPT 4, but he has a paid subscription. So let's use the free one. No. Okay. I want the free one, okay? You guys use Copilot. It's okay if you are available. If you have it available to use it, it's really good. You'll see a lot of demos during the conference for that. But we try to use everything as you can see. The ChatGPT is really good at building code. So let's enhance even further the tests by using the free version to generate the code that we need. So we're going to try to create some DAX measures, some standard measures that you'll see, and we're going to really push the tests. So the first one was just, okay, I don't know anything about ChatGPT. I just go into the OpenAI ChatGPT, and I just ask for the C# code to use on my external tool, the Tabular
Because
Editor.
we've seen a demo that it's possible to generate all the measures in Tabular Editor
Yeah,
and just trying to generate the code without going to the documentation, right?
Yeah. So if you go to the Tabular Editor documentation, you have a lot of snippets to use on Tabular Editor. So we are trying to not use the documentation.
You don't want to read
Google.
the documentation. That's
I don't want to Google it. I just want to try. As you can see, the first prompt didn't work well because it's putting some stuff on the code, like the using, that is not working, that will not work on Tabular Editor, okay? So this is, I just put this example because it doesn't work when you just prompt it like that. And specifically in ChatGPT 3.5, you have to fine-tune the prompt even more. So you have to be a little bit more specific on how to use it. Pedro already showed some use cases where you can interact with the prompt. So just to highlight that if you just go there and just ask something like this, it will not work because, you know, Tabular Editor does not use C# code directly.
So do you have a good prompt?
Yeah. So I went back to ChatGPT and I asked it to, first, let me just pause this and do a little zoom here. So as you can see, we have a lot of ways to prompt it. So the first one is the context. I specifically told him that I want to be as a Power BI developer. So I asked ChatGPT to act as a Power BI developer and give me the C# code for the Tabular Editor snippets that we're going to use with the language, the Tom language. And this way, you will understand much better what is the result that we want to get. So first of all, the character or the context for ChatGPT, then the object, and then the results. This will work much faster, and you'll see that even comparing with the model that Pedro was showing, is able to provide the answers much faster. You see the code is coming back.
3.5, we actually see the difference. In my demo with the 4.0, we actually have to skip a little bit because it's more complete, but takes more time. 3.5 seems quite fast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that we noticed. And even I went back and I copied the code and I tested it directly on the Tabular Editor. As you can see, still having some examples that are not working well. So I went back and I asked it, okay, just clean me the code and give me the code without the using. And I was able to run all of the code in Tabular Editor. And as you'll see, we were able to create a code for all the columns. So you'll see some examples where you have to select the columns. In this case, I just asked to create me a sum measure for all of the columns that I have in the model. And I wanted it to create just for the numeric ones. So there's still a little bit of cleaning up that we need to do, but the increase on the efficiency and the speed that we can develop this is really good.
But the trend is, for instance, as it already knew what was our data model, and it was even ChatGPT that created, we could even use that information to refine this prompt and just specify which like tables or type of measures we want.
If you go back and reprompt it and just keep, even if you don't know the code, you just pass the errors or pass the messages, it will still keep developing and giving you the new code until you get to a point where it's actually working.
Okay, cool.
So, test okay with some iterations, but it was really awesome to build this all at once. So the next test that we want to do is now I want to build a measure that is based on date. So in this case, let me just pause this a bit. I ask it to create year to date and a month to date for the sum sales amount. Okay, so we want to create a calculation based on date for those amounts that we just summed. So I provided it just the code, as you can see. I want the result, and he started building the code. Again, the using, still some cleaning up to do, some iterations. And if we go back, we copy the code, we can see that it actually was able to produce a clean code
that's there. Okay.
where we can just execute the creation of the task measures, and I even saved it to make sure that it's actually working. Okay, you have to save the model. So if you keep interacting it will provide you a good code, and it will actually be very helpful to create all of the year-to-date and time intelligence measures.
Very cool. As tomorrow I have a session on calculation groups, maybe I
Yeah.
should try? Okay.
Go ahead and try it. So, test okay with iterations. Let's pump up this a little bit. Now we want something a bit more complicated. We want a rolling sum for the year. So, as you know, this is a bit complicated to calculate, and so we went back to ChatGPT.
We don't have Copilot and capacity?
No, we are no budget.
No budget?
No budget. So we are just depending on free code and free.
We have to do
applications.
a proof of value first.
Yeah,
That's it?
absolutely.
Okay.
So first we need to make sure that we actually know how to use the tools before we buy it. Okay, so again, prompt, reprompt. So I went back and generate the code, clean it, and again, I was able to create the clean code to generate a rolling sum for the sales amount. So this is the kind of examples that we want to showcase on you. So if you have more complex DAX measures, ChatGPT, even in the free version, will work really well. Mm-hmm. And with some fine tuning and giving back the messages, you'll get the really, really good complex ways of developing the DAX measures, even if you don't know how to use the DAX measures.
Okay, very interesting.
So test okay. So now that we have the DAX measures, what can we do more to the report?
Well, actually, we should actually go to the report and actually build the report, like the actual visuals of the report and the relationships. But we're not going to do that. Maybe you guys have already logged into the service. You can already select a few things and create auto reports. That part is becoming a bit easier. And also, we believe that everyone here is somewhat the expert in their own domain and able to create the reports knowing better they know their own data. So what we're going to try to do, we focus instead of doing that part, assuming we have a report, we just want to take care of the imaging part. First thing I wanted to test was creating some banners for the report. You guys already know that we can create images like in Bing or in GPT, and you can use it as backgrounds. LinkedIn is full of AI images, you guys know it. So I wanted to test the banners, but unfortunately, it's not possible yet to generate directly a banner in a format. I tried everything to generate a wide banner, like 1,280 by 200, something like this. It doesn't work. It has to be in the normal, like 16 by 9, 9 by 16 formats. What I tried instead was, let's update the theme format because it's code. And we know that code seems like it's working well. So I went to this very nice website, BIBB, which has templates for themes. I downloaded this theme, and so I have the JSON file, and I asked ChatGPT, can you update this theme from like a bluish theme color to a yellow color? I'm not being very specific. I just want to see if it goes to the right point to change it. So it provided, I couldn't download the first time. Finally, I can download the file. And I import Browse for Themes in Power BI Desktop, import the JSON file, the new theme, and we have the report in yellow. It changed actually everything, okay? So I'm not being very specific.
I didn't change everything.
Oh, no. What? The table, right?
Yeah.
The table. It didn't change the table, okay? Why is that? It's because in my theme file, you actually need a definition of all the different visuals to be there. And it wasn't there.
No.
So if you ask it to do that by itself, it won't. One thing that, so this one worked, but I need now to give it an actual table definition. And you have in this nice repository from David Eldersveld, definitions of different visuals in Power BI that you can add to your JSON theme. Of course, you can open the JSON theme on Notepad++, Visual Studio Code, and do it yourself. If you don't know very well how to do that, ask ChatGPT, and let's try it out. We give it the code just for that visual that's in that repo. Can you add this table definition to my JSON and also change the colors of the table to yellow? And here it is, the new theme file. We download, import it back, and here it is. Voila, the table is in yellow.
Yeah, it's discussable. It's discussable.
It's
Okay.
okay. We weren't
But it
very
worked. It
we
worked.
weren't very specific. So again, but what is the interest of this? As it is large language models, it means that you can give it like it's multimodal. Give it an image of a website. I want to create my theme with the colors of this website and ask it to do step by step. This is the trend
Yeah,
that we're going, right?
For branding, for companies.
Absolutely. I want imaging like Amazon imaging. I want Tesla imaging. It will be able to do that with natural language and update your files directly
So
in
in
the
this
code.
case, you had to provide a working example.
Yes,
So, and he was able to understand the working example.
perfectly. It works very well in those cases, yeah.
Right?
So we have our report ready and with the correct team, but we are in the pro version and I don't have deployment pipelines.
Yeah, again, the
And
budget.
you know, the users want to have a workspace for developing and testing, but then they have a separate workspace for publishing. Can we do something about it to help them? They don't know
Absolutely,
anything about PowerShell, but they can install commandlets.
So one of the things that, again, we are showcasing is we try to do this on the free version. And of course, where you can use Copilot to do all of this publication and administration. You'll see a lot of demos here today. But the idea here is that we want to use all of the free version of ChatGPT and use the commandlets that we already have for Power BI management. So you can use PowerShell using the libraries, and you can actually publish and govern your development. Okay?
Maybe we can ask, has anyone here already used either commandlets or the REST API on Power BI? Not a lot of people. Yeah. So in this case, this might be for you. You might be able to do these things.
So the idea is that we need to upload, so in this case, publish our report. We can do it from Power BI Desktop, but when we have...
if you have 100 reports?
Yeah, and we work in a team, it's much harder to use that. So we created something that is like a process to deploy and to administer all of the Power BI reports. So the first thing that we tested was, okay, I want to see what are the artifacts that I have on my workspace before I publish, right? So I asked ChatGPT, as a Power BI developer, using Power BI commandlets, please provide me the PowerShell script to list all of the artifacts that we have on my Power BI workspace fabric.
Data sets, reports, everything.
Yeah, everything. Okay. Everything, all the objects that I have on my workspace. This way we can know what is already published, what is missing. Mm-hmm. So, again, I know I tested the code and he gave me some hallucination. Oh. He put me a function that doesn't exist on the Power BI commandlets. So I tested the code, he gave me the error.
You should have used my prompt from Power Query, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Again, I'm on the free version. I don't have any budget, remember. So I went back, I copied the code, pasted it to PowerShell. Just open the PowerShell command. By the way, you see that you have to have the permissions to run the PowerShell command, but it's something just, you can run the code for it. You can ask ChatGPT the code. So I ran the code, and again, he was able to connect with my credentials to the workspace and provide me all of the list of the artifacts that I have on my Power BI workspace. With this, we can manage all of the objects that we have published. So in this case, I just copied the code, I ran it, he gave me a message about the function that doesn't exist. I went back, and like Pedro said, we keep prompting and fine-tuning the prompt, and we get to the results. So
and after it's done, we can save it and reuse it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And when we are using the chat, we can continue the same tasks by continuing to prompt, and it will understand from the previous command what you want to do. Again, we were able to list all of the artifacts that we have on the Power BI workspace using the Power BI management tool. And okay, now we can go to the next step. We start developing. We have many versions, so test okay with iterations, and we go to the next step. So now we want to publish the local report.
One or more reports, right?
You can choose a list, or you can choose the report that you want to work.
Everything in a folder we can publish?
Yeah, you choose a local folder, and then you can go just ask ChatGPT for the code. So in this case, I specified the folder already on the prompt, and he was able to look at the code, and again, so he didn't understand that I already installed the modules, and he gave me again the prompt to install the modules. You'll see that in the new code I ran. Yeah, let's see if it worked. Yeah. Okay.
You commented.
I don't want to install again because I log in again with my credentials. He was able, okay. So
Because
we have,
cmdlets, we are using the personal account, right?
Yeah.
And not the service principal name. Yeah.
so you can set up this with a service account or the principal to make it easier to publish so that you don't have to keep inputting your credentials. So I went back, I corrected the code, and this time I was able to change the code so that I could publish the report into the Power BI.
This seems very useful if we need to publish like 20 reports. I
So-
see people many times publishing one by one, doing that. So, it
So
seems very
here the
useful.
idea is that you have something that you can automatize. So the idea is to create some automatization on the deployments. For example, if you want to deploy everything to your dev environment on the workspace. And in this case, we're going to do this because we want to try and manage the CI/CD and DevOps of our Power BI reports.
Okay.
So in this case, we can control a little bit more by code how we publish it. And if you have many reports to publish at the same time, usually
It's quite useful,
at
yeah.
the end of a sprint or something like that, you know, on Agile, you can just use the code and publish everything that you have on the folder.
Okay.
You can even tweak the code to make sure if it doesn't exist already on the Power BI workspace, and even tell him if you want to overwrite or just create a new copy.
And I didn't need to know a single line of PowerShell so far.
No.
Okay.
So for now, you don't have to code. Okay, you just have to ask ChatGPT, and you will be able to create the code for that.
Okay.
So next step. This test was okay with iterations, but it was okay.
Okay. What do you want to do next?
Okay, now before going even further, we have to make sure that we have a backup of our reports. So good practice is, okay, once you publish, keep a version of your report on your local data set, on your local repository.
You can do it like in SharePoint or OneDrive?
You can create some sort of a repository where you can create all your backup. So I went back to ChatGPT and I asked him to give me the code using the Power BI commands to just go into my workspace and back up all of the Power BI files that I have, all of the reports that I have there. So I just asked to back up the reports, not all of the artifacts.
I see
So
clearly
went back,
the use case for that. Yeah. I see clearly the use case.
put the credentials.
Because nowadays, I think that it's possible to edit reports directly online, right? Edit models, a lot of
you
things.
can go into the Power BI service and
So
you
it's
just
good
edit the
idea.
report directly. And I went back and I just prompted it and made it back up all of the reports into my local folder. So I was able to create this automatically. So the use case that we're trying to show is create your routine to back up all of your reports, for example, weekly or monthly. So create a job that you can use with PowerShell and synchronize and schedule that will keep backing up the versions of the reports that you have
For one
on
or
your
more
workspace.
workspaces, right? As long as the user has the access, right? Yeah.
So again, we are talking about someone that has only a pro license. It means we have no budget again. So we have to
Too
keep
bad.
working with what we have available. And this will be a good idea to maintain your CI/CD and create your backup of the reports.
Okay, seems quite useful.
Okay, now that we have our backup, it's working, let's try another topic. So we don't have the deployment pipelines because you don't have the premium capacity or the Copilot to help you do that. So we try to separate between two workspaces.
You want to publish to another one?
Yeah, so we have a workspace where we work for the devs, we test, we do everything we need to do for the development, but then we don't want the users for the business to access the same workspace. So we created a different workspace where we can publish our reports once they are finished and validated by the business.
So the users wouldn't need to move or to copy manually reports between workspaces?
We can create something like a job to deploy reports from one workspace to another.
Okay.
So I went back to the prompt and asked it to give me the code, the PowerShell code, to deploy the reports that I can have on my local repository. Or if I don't have access to the backup repository, you can just ask to download the report from one workspace and deploy it to another. So we can move the reports from the dev workspace and just publish it to our prod workspace. Again, this is with a pro license, no budget again. We could do this with deployment pipelines.
We'll get it. We just need to prove the...
Yeah. We have to prove this works, okay, first. So again, the code It gave me the PowerShell script. I went back to the reports, and okay, so I ran the PowerShell again, and I was able to download the report from one workspace, keep a version, and then redeploy it to production. So we could move this report from one environment to the other.
Okay.
So this is really useful when you want to segregate your access to the reports. So you have a connection for the devs and a connection for the production where the business needs to access and needs to test the real data, right?
Okay, okay. So it seems like you found some tools that might be useful for users in Pro right
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
Hearing all the Copilot, etc., and without the weapons to do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the free version again.
Yeah.
So we have to consider that if you create some jobs where you can automatize this, it will ease up the way you deploy the reports and maintain it. Okay, so new tests with interactions. Again, now that we deployed everything, of course, we need to refresh the data. So we're going to use the same policy. We're going to use the code to help us create a schedule or after a deployment, an event-driven, for example, when you deploy the report to the Pro environment, you can ask it to automatically refresh the data source that is connected to the report. So again, on the prompt, I asked ChatGPT to give me the code to refresh a specific data set. So I can pass it as a variable or a parameter to the code. And I know exactly which is the data set that I want to refresh after I deploy it. So the use case is already deployed the report. You have a list of reports that you published, and you can pass it as a parameter to the code where you will refresh the data and even check if there are some messages or errors on the refresh.
So you could launch like 3 refresh at the same time with this, right?
Absolutely. You can create an event-driven. After you deploy the report, you use the name of the report published, and you can ask it to refresh the data source.
Okay, so this is reports plus data set, right?
Yep.
Okay, PBIX. Okay.
So you can use the data set as a refresh. You can even...
Semantic models now, we need to update.
Yeah, yes, semantic models. Still hard to change the name. So you can even see the messages for the refresh, and you can actually set up this as code. Okay, so we have all our stack.
We published and refreshed.
Published, developed, and refreshed.
Okay, ready for the users.
So after all of these tests, what can we see from the tests that we did? First of all, we did a summary of all the tests that we did. And actually, we could put in what was the result, the category for each of the tests. So you want, so that you can have on the slides and check. Again, this is simple use cases that we try to show here. Use your creativity, use the way you fine-tune the prompt to make sure that you can even go further on the complexity of the code that you use for this. So the idea is that we have a setup, a use case from all of the steps that you use for the Power BI development.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for setting up this table, Ricardo.
And let's go back to the first slide of the study, right?
So going back to our study on AI by BCG, this chart demonstrates what was the result of the 3 cohorts. The control group was the group that didn't use AI at all. They relied on their own skills by themselves. And you can see on the x-axis, you see the quality of the work. And on the y-axis, you see the frequency, the percentage of people with that quality of work. So you see most of the results on the quality is more on the 4 point something with the highest frequency. And the ones using GPT, the green curve, actually have a much better average quality, but a bit more dispersed. You can see it. And the red curve, which is the ones using the AI, plus their own skills, even doing a little bit like we did, iterating the prompt, not relying on it totally, just using, which is, in this article it talks about the Jagged Alliance and the centaurs versus cyborgs. The centaurs is, you are either full AI or you are either full human, right? Yeah. The cyborgs are the one which actually can use the AI. We are a little bit cyborgs already. We use our phones. This is our extension of ourselves right now. And so this is the next step is the AI. So the red curve, clearly the ones which had the better result with a mixed use of this. One very important point. This result was specifically more incident and more differentiated. In the study, they have all the charts if you guys are interested to read it. that the more less skilled participants, the more junior ones, had an increase of 43% in their productivity, which is from 4.05 to 5.79. But the more skilled, the more experienced, the more seniors only had a 17% increase. Does it make sense? I think it does, because what we see, the tasks are being done. I wouldn't expect this to do a task with better quality than maybe we would do by ourselves. But can we do faster? And can we build on top of it? I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, we can master the Power BI development by using the time that we spend automatizing these steps and creating the code, and we can use it to enhance our models, enhance our visuals. So the idea is that we get more time from the AI.
Absolutely. And something very interesting. Let's see where we are next year, because when GPT 3.5 was launched, it could already pass directly some of the tests like history, geography, natural science, some things like this. But for instance, an LSAT, which is a test with more math and logic, etc., it could only have like a 40%. When GPT-4 and then GPT-4 with multiple capacities like image processing, etc., it could already rate like 85% on that test. So imagine this when GPT-5 comes out, we can prompt it directly with images, we can prompt it with different types of files, with the multimodal capabilities and senses. It can really accelerate the results. So just to say, this was a huge difference already in 1 year. When you guys come back, if you come back for the next year, I think there will be a lot more results and improvements on this field. So some of the takeaways, summary, wrap things up. Far from perfect, but it's going the right direction. It's useful. It's like we call it our junior level assistant that works a little bit, does some boring tasks for us, like a junior level assistant, and tends to evolve quite quickly. What else can we see, Ricardo?
So now we see that with the opening of the Power BI project format, we'll be able to use more of the code that is behind the reports, for example. We can use the code that is behind the reports so that we can leverage the usage of these scripts and the AI to produce and manage the code much easier.
Yeah.
So we've seen that the ChatGPT is really good at generating code. So if you have all of the Power BI formats,
if all becomes code?
Yeah, if all becomes code.
Even the reports are becoming code, right?
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. Check out the session from Miguel. That will be this afternoon, right? And he'll deep dive on this. So again, like we saw, it's really good not only in DAX and Power Query, under report design, but also we can manage, publish, and administrate, and even work with the UI and UX. And we can, it's just a question of creativity. We can create our own code for managing the publishing and the administration.
Yeah. So if you guys enjoyed this session and you missed my other session, the 20-minute short one, I did the 5 different demos. You guys can revisit the videos later, etc., just to know if you missed it. If some of these points, like improve DAX with SVG or CSS, and analyzing existing data models or data. The other thing is evaluating the UI UX of reports and giving suggestions on the visuals and on the layout, etc. Troubleshooting issues like you have a weird error from a gateway or something like that and giving you suggestions. It's another idea. And for instance, creating questions. Questions, I don't know, you can use on interviews. You can use on tests for your team. I go in my car and I put the AI with voice and I ask it to ask me topics for things that I want to improve, and it's actually a fascinating conversation.
To learn. Yeah, absolutely.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this session. Here is the link for the feedback and the links to connect with us. I think we have just 2 or 3 minutes, and we are open for questions, or also after the session. Yep.
Yeah, we have a question there.
Not that loud. Yeah, thanks for presenting. The question is, don't you think this kind of demo could be a bit misleading, because you ask ChatGPT to generate the data, which is available on the web, and then do some calculations and so on with this data, which is already available on the web. And most probably, there is a lot of examples of like calculations on this standard data already exist. And as soon as you try to use real client data, which is not available, all those results could be not that successful like it was in your demo.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good question. Thank you. I'll let you answer some of the rest, but if you start building your own AI models, of course, you can use your data. But be careful, because when we are using the real data, like he said, it's a bit more complicated. You have to treat the prompt engineering different. Okay. In this use case, it's just we want to increase the productivity. So for people that are starting to work and they don't have the knowledge on PowerShell, on DAX, on everything that is a bit more complicated and that has a learning curve that is a bit higher, we can really speed up the learning curve. So if you start with examples, thank you. And I'll let you complete the answer if you want.
No, that's about it. Sometimes you can just generate the ideas and try it out, and then actually in your corporate environment, you already tested things a little bit on brainstorming, then actually you do things in the proper way, in the structured way. Yeah.
If you want to invest, you can buy the Copilot version. So,
okay. So thanks everyone.
Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you.
If you have any questions, we will be here for a few minutes. You can just come by.